Hello and welcome back. So, today we're going to discuss music and wrestling and the relationship between the two things. So, throughout the years, wrestling and music have had a relatively close relationship with one another, be it back in WCW, where they had a working relationship with the band Kiss, um, where they would perform a live performance show. I think they may have done it more than once. And in return, WCW had a wrestler that was gimmicked after them called the Kiss Demon, like came out in full Kiss face paint, their outfit and everything. Um, and this was done to try and capitalize on the band's popularity. But um, it didn't really go down as well as they had hoped. It was more of a ratings flop than a ratings draw, and it really didn't capitalize on the popularity of the band like they had hoped. But they'd also worked with other artists such as the Misfits, who they made a theme and even walked Vampiro down to the ring at one point, um, and caused interference in some of his matches. But as well as these bands, they also worked with artists such as Master P, Insane Clown Posse, and Megadeth, just to name a small portion. But the main company I've grown up with is obviously WWE, who have had a working relationship with a plethora of names, both big and small, throughout the years. You know, they've worked with people from Cyndi Lauper to Kid Rock to Corey Taylor to 3 6 Mafia, and in more recent years, they've also had, working relationships with people such as Hardy, Lil Uzi Vert, MGK, Bad Bunny, who has performed for them and has wrestled. I believe it is now at two, maybe three matches. Uh, yeah, I think it's three because he had the tag match with Damian Priest against John Morrison and The Miz. He faced Damian Priest in a street fight in Puerto Rico, and he also was a participant in the 2023 Royal Rumble, where he had some cool spots. Shit, did he get involved in the 2022 Royal Rumble as well, maybe? I don't know. Can't quite remember. But, like I said, this is just naming a few. But if you can name someone, they've probably had some sort of small working relationship with WWE throughout their time. Like I said, be it just a small performance like Bad Bunny, MGK, and New Year's Day have had, or like Poppy, where it's been a one-off performance which has spiraled into something bigger with her music being used as themes for NXT, the NXT pay-per-views. She's had multiple live performances on NXT television, I guess. You know, or artists like Motorhead, who ended up becoming very good friends with the wrestler that they were brought in to do the song for. Because Lemmy, the lead singer of Motorhead, and Triple H actually ended up becoming very, very good friends. And Triple H even did a spoken word introduction-y piece to one of their songs for them. For those of you that are interested, that was the song Serial Killer. And obviously, they made the game theme song. They made the Line in the Sand theme song for Evolution. They did multiple different iterations of Triple H's theme. Yeah. Very, very good relationship there. But like I said, or this could also even be them just using an artist's song as a theme for a pay-per-view as a one-off sort of deal, similar to like Flow Rider, where his songs would be used for consecutive years for WrestleMania. In a similar way, The Weeknd has had this recently, where I think we've had 3 back-to-back WrestleManias with his music as a theme song for it. Other artists that have had this similar sort of deal is Lil Wayne and Pitbull. Or, for example, with WWE's Survivor Series War Games, which debuted last year and happened again quite recently on the main roster after years of being an NXT-only event. Both times on the main roster, they have used Black Sabbath's well-known track War Pigs as its theme song, and last year, Ozzy Osbourne even did the cold open for the show as well, which was so cool to see as a massive fan of Ozzy and wrestling. To combine the two was insane. These working relationships are not just limited to real life. This also expands out into the video game universe of wrestling as well. Some of the people that have had this sort of deal is Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit, who was featured in WWF's SmackDown Just Bring It. We had MGK in WWE 2K22, who he was a playable DLC character. He featured in the trailers for the game. He also curated the entire music playlist. And it was actually a fairly good crossover. And this came in a time where MGK was trying to go a bit more pop punk, and not everyone was on the MGK hype train, you know. But another person that this also has expanded to in recent years is Bad Bunny, who, again, in 2K23 was a DLC pre-order bonus. So we got his version. And towards this latter end of the life cycle of the game, we ended up getting his Puerto Rico Street Fight variant as a DLC bonus. And he ended up getting a special edition made for him with like his art on the cover, portraying him as well. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of multiple facets, which I've only covered a few, and I will go on to talk about a few more here in a minute. So what are the benefits really of this? Like, surely this only helps out the wrestlers, like, or the wrestling companies at least, right? Well, yes and no, in my opinion. You see, NXT once performed at a festival where Corey Taylor was actually in the front row watching. And I believe at this time he had had a bit of a verbal altercation on Twitter with then NXT wrestler Baron Corbin. Obviously, I don't need to explain who Corey Taylor is. Like Slipknot, Stone Sour, everyone knows Corey Taylor at this point. Massive name in the music industry. But yeah, he was present front row, and through the Twitter altercation, like Baron Corbin was kind of like mouthing off, getting up in his face. So Corey Taylor just bam slapped him one, you know, and this was everywhere. And another little fun fact for you guys: back in this time frame when Baron Corbin was in NXT, his theme song was sung by then Bad Wolves vocalist Tommy Vext. Yeah. So like I said, this incident specifically was about 8 years ago now. And currently it sits on WWE's YouTube channel at around 7 million views. And I remember back when it happened, it was in almost every like wrestling blog, wrestling YouTubers were covering it, music YouTubers were covering it. Like Kerrang had done a bit about it, I think. Like Metal Hammer were talking about it. It was everywhere, and it was bringing attention to both parties involved. As well as this, they've also had spots at Download Festival where NXT UK would perform during some sets. And as well, SmackDown, I think, has had some live matches at the rap festival Rolling Loud as well, where like there would be a stage with a wrestling ring set up and they would perform, and I think Street Profits have showed up at it and stuff like that. Now, just imagine the reach if your song, let's say with current WWE Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, hers is Demon in Your Dreams, which is sung by Motionless in White. This is played at least once per Raw, sometimes twice at a minimum. Raw can frequently reach up to about 2 million viewers every Monday. You know, and this is not with pay-per-view buys or pay-per-view views on their WWE network. This isn't like talking about reruns and YouTube clips and Instagram reels and all this stuff involved. Like, but it gets a lot of playtime if you add all of this all together. And I imagine, and yes, I'm going to assume here and probably end up making an ass of myself, but you know, all of that playtime and reach, at least like a 10% portion of people probably haven't heard the artist before, Motionless in White, right? And if they like Rhea Ripley and they like her theme, they're going to look it up, be like, oh shit, okay, Motionless in White sung Rhea Ripley's theme song. Let me go and see what other stuff they've done. And they might actually like it. And again, like, and as well as this, like, I'm not taking into account how many times you'll hear it playing like a 2K video game and stuff like this as well. And now, not all collaborations go smoothly, which could impact the benefits of the performance and the collaboration efforts on the artist. For example, when New Year's Day, a couple years back now, they did a live version of their song Brutality at WrestleMania 37 for Rhea Ripley's entrance. And I remember watching this and I was so hyped for this like live entrance for Rhea, and the like audio kept cutting in and out, the mic wasn't working properly, and it was extremely spotty, and it just didn't live up to the hype I had for it, I guess. And in a similar vein, when Hardy did his performance of one of his songs, wasn't very good either. You know, and I'm a fan of him, and I can easily say that it didn't sound great at all. And I don't know if that's, again, like a microphone issue, or if that was the fact that the arena wasn't like carrying the sound very well, or if in general he just wasn't sounding good that night. But on the other hand, with New Year's Day, they at least had a chance to perform live again recently at the 2023 NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1, and that performance was a lot better and actually kind of like brought them back from that bad performance prior in the years. And now, obviously, not every theme in WCW, WWE, AEW, TNA, MLW, etc. is going to be a licensed track. Some of these are produced in-house. Now, over time, you know, we've seen people like Jim Johnston making absolute fucking bangers of wrestling theme songs. Honestly, one of the best people in the business that has created music for wrestlers. Absolute legendary work from him. And then we've also seen people like CFO, $, CFOS, like however you want to call them, who have made a few gems, but a vast collection of their music was generic and very borderline samey. Like, I remember me and my friends for a long period of time used to say how similar Roman Reigns' theme song sounded at the start to Bayley's theme song, with like these choirs and things. So it's safe to say they were not too fondly remembered when they departed back in 2020. And now Def Rebel are currently there making their theme songs, and they're doing a bit of a better job. Like, not everyone sounds like, you know, generic and samey, and there is a bit of effort to try and make people stand out again. So before we wind this video down and wrap up, what are the pros and cons of music and wrestling, I guess? So some of the pros: if the song is crafted to a specific character's gimmick, as soon as that music hits, you know who is coming out. Number two, it will get eyes on both the wrestler and the musician, and I guess technically three, the company. Three, if the song/songs work well, it can create a long-lasting relationship like Poppy and her relationship with WWE's NXT. Some cons that I could think of: well, any controversies from the wrestler or the band could end up reflecting badly on the company, the musician, the band that weren't involved in the controversies, and could lead to that song being removed/scrubbed from the archives and being completely changed out and given them a new theme song. Or if they are the one causing the controversy, they'll be fired from the company, scrubbed, and then it'll be like, oh, that band did that song for that guy that, caused a car crash or something. Two, you'll need to keep paying for licensing fees and royalties if it is a successful working relationship. So that can be a bit of a downside. Like, for example, when people, CM Punk, he uses Living Colour's Cult of Personality, and you'd have to pay royalties and licensing fees for that. As well, if a smaller wrestler from the indies is known for using a specific licensed theme song on their shows, once they get signed to a bigger company, be it TNA, AEW, WWE, etc., they might not have that possibility of bringing that known theme song to them and then being stuck with something else. So once they hit once they hit like a main roster or an NXT or whatever, for whatever company they're with, fans aren't instantly going to know it's them because they've got this new theme song that sounds like generic track B off of a video game. So, in summary, the relationship between music and wrestling is that of a thing of necessity. It's almost symbiotic, in a way. Like, the music is part of the spectacle and the pomp and circumstance of the show and the stories and the feel and the vibe and the grit and the glamour. And without, say, Judas for Chris Jericho in AEW, it wouldn't be the same Chris Jericho we know today. Without, Kingdom by Downstate, Cody Rhodes wouldn't be the Cody Rhodes we have today. Without Stone Cold Steve Austin coming down to his glass-shattering, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me attitude music, Stone Cold wouldn't be the same Stone Cold we know today. Could you imagine him coming down to some like generic rock track or just or something? Like, it wouldn't work. So, or imagine, say, Stone Cold again coming out to a softer track that didn't fit his gimmick, like something really like lulled and chilled out. It would be so weird, so jarring. It would be substantially different and affect how you see that character and the product as a whole. So yeah, I definitely think it's more of a universal positive relationship than any sort of negative one. And the whole sum of the parts, definitely, there are cons, but at the end of the day, when isn't there some odds of things going tits up, But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And with that said, I'll see you all in the next video, which will be the 6-song roundup, episode 25. I also have my best of 2023 EPs and albums list coming out soon as well. So there's going to be several videos dropping in December that I'm going to try and get pre-done. So yeah, with that being said, this video is wrapped up. I will see you soon, and remember to stay safe out there, my friends. Goodbye.